My lords, as so many of you enjoyed my report on the rarest anomalies in our galaxy, I've decided to follow up with the rarest Digsites in our galaxy. Digsites are far rarer to discover than anomalies. I've delved into the galactic code. Each time a science ship surveys a stellar body, there is a 5 in 405 chance, so a 1.2% chance, that you'll find a Digsite. This can be increased slightly via the astute observation agenda acquired from the archivism tradition tree. On average, a star system has approximately 10 stellar bodies within it. These all need to be surveyed. This gives us an average chance of finding a Digsite of 11.37% chance per system. However, should you find one Digsite, you'll be slapped with something called the Don't Get Greedy flag. This will reduce the chances of you finding a Digsite by 80% for 5 years, which brings it all the way down to a tiny 0.234% per survey, or 2.4% per system. On top of this, each Digsite has its own independent spawning criteria. Some only spawn on specific worlds, for example, and a surprisingly large number will not fire for Gestalt at all. I hope that was interesting, but with that in mind, let's get into what the rarest Digsites are, and we begin with number 10, Ruined Station, which is linked to the Radari Death Laser. Ruined Station has a high base rate, but it only spawns on neutron stars or pulsars, which are one of the rarest stellar bodies in the galaxy, thus making it rare by association of how it spawns. We discovered a large station orbiting in an alarmingly close proximity to a neutron star in the Gamma Hades system. Furthermore, it was actively transmitting strange readings. Although its current position was stable, it showed considerable wear and tear. A proliferation of scorch marks indicated that it had been rocked by several large explosions in the past. Our investigating scientist, Dr. Miles, boarded the station with a team of researchers and managed to restore power to some of the sections. It appears that the station was inhabited mere centuries before humanity took flight to space, so relatively not that long ago at all. At first sight, it appears to have been a weapons station, as evidenced by the exceptionally large cannon that takes up the majority of the space station's volume. However, most of the remaining sections seem to have been dedicated to research facilities, indicating that this weapon was highly experimental. Our team couldn't help but notice that a large number of the station's systems, which were apparently undamaged, nevertheless were failing with excessive frequency, even given their age. This led the team to determine that the entire facility was likely cobbled together with vibe coding and duct tape. Despite these outages, the team was able to make significant progress in deciphering the purpose of the station. Logs indicated that its creators, the Radari, had been engaged in a long struggle with a genocidal race known as the Pog Mori, a war that they were losing. In a desperate, last-ditch effort to turn the tide, a radical group of Radari politicians concluded that the only way to guarantee their survival was through the total annihilation of the enemy. They had been thus far unable to defeat the Pog Mori fleet by conventional means. They funded a top-secret project to build a laser weapon capable of firing across interstellar space by harnessing the power of a star. However, it appears that while they could throw considerable resources at the problem, the project was hastily set up and in constant danger of discovery, either by the enemy or by factions within their own government unwilling to stoop to such genocidal measures. We discovered the Radari Chief Science Officer's personal logs, which read as a litany of complaints about the seemingly impossible demands of the project and their rapidly falling quality and safety standards. "There's no time to test anything," he wrote. "This is the last gambit of my people, and the enemy has our scent. We must hope that this is enough. They are coming." The logs indicate the weapon was due to be tested soon after, at which point all records cease. Evidence suggests that the superweapon succeeded only in destroying the station. The Radari seemingly took the secret of the location to their graves, allowing us to find the remains undisturbed. Neither the programming nor the general condition of the station are good enough for us to risk trying to reactivate it. However, some of the innovative concepts used in the so-called Death Laser have provided our own weapon specialist with valuable insights. The resulting outcome, my lords, was the discovery of the Radari Death Laser technology, which has increased our own ship weapons damage and range. Moving on to number 9, Frozen Complex. This event has one of the lowest weights in the galaxy, however it spawns on frozen worlds, which are somewhat common, making it rare, but perhaps not as rare as the weight initially suggests. Scanners initially detected a hidden complex buried deep beneath the ice and snow on Rarest 6 Alpha. A large network of partially collapsed or blocked tunnels seemed to connect the various underground structures. The freezing climate of the planet had covered the site in thick layers of ice and snow. The desolate location may have been a hint of the need for discretion. Whatever took place here, someone probably wanted to keep it hidden, so we sent a landing party to investigate further. The complex consisted of several large underground structures connected with a network of tunnels, many of which had been collapsed or are now blocked by ice. Although ancient, some of the tunnels show clear signs of a fire. The damage caused by the fire was major enough to suggest a catastrophic event, or potentially an intentional destruction. One thing is sure, however, and that is the purpose of the site is clearly scientific in nature. Further investigation revealed that the primary purpose of the site was indeed in the research and development of advanced energy weapons, plasma no less. An accident seems to have triggered a catastrophic explosion which eradicated most of the site. One data center seemed to be in relatively good condition, and its data did indeed yield some useful insights, partially unlocking plasma accelerator cannon technologies. Moving on to number 8, my lords, Green Skies. Now, this is not inherently rare. Indeed, all you need is a habitable planet and not to be gestalt. Why it makes this list is potentially an assumption on my part. The assumption is that most galaxies do not have active cosmic storms within them. This is important, as in order to spawn, this dig site requires an active storm, rather than a specific survey chance. Essentially, no storm, no dig site. If I was right or wrong about this assumption, let me know. Nevertheless, I'll detail the event for you. During routine exploration of the Paris system, we identified a series of intriguing signals coming from a specific region on the 4th planet. Based on their composition, it was highly likely that it was a remnant of an ancient civilization waiting to be uncovered. We were gleefully making base camp in the hope to find yet more evidence of the newly discovered Anisian traders or the Adakaria, or perhaps something completely undiscovered. Near our base camp, we were greeted by a set of peculiar ruins. The architecture showed characteristics of every civilization we had encountered so far, most bizarrely, including our own. However, the material composition was similar to what we used to establish base camps during planetary colonization. This is odd, because these materials could never hold out for multiple decades, let alone the age that our scanners have determined them to be. It is unlikely for these ruins to have belonged to a mysterious precursor, yet the scanners persist in their conclusion. They are telling us they are millions of years old. We wonder what could be at play here, and are investigating further. The trail of these signals led to a pathway in the lower levels of the ruined city. Usually, archaeological dig sites of this type have underground transportation networks, or a collection of safety bunkers. Instead, we found a small cave system littered with scraps of fabric, polymer containers, and even organic waste. It would seem that we're not the first to explore this dig site. Most worryingly, my crew aboard the ship in orbit inform us that the skies outside are beginning to turn green. A cosmic storm is about to develop inside the star system. Still, we press on towards the origin point of these signals. We hope the storm will be a minor one and continue to explore the ruins. Our progress was briefly halted by a set of badly damaged metallic doors. With some effort, we worked our way past the obstacle and a rudimentary storage facility revealed itself. Its shelves were filled to the brim with an assortment of derelict technologies. Boxes of well-known corporations had been stacked against the walls, and finally the source of the signal we had been chasing for so long. It was a transponder computer, not unlike our own. As we logged into the device and searched its database, our engineers started to form wild conclusions. The signal was deliberately constructed to appear as mysterious and intriguing as possible, mimicking and combining characteristics of other galactic civilizations. What's more, inside the boxes we found construction kits of the ruins that we encountered above ground. We contacted our base camp and reported our findings, but the cosmic storm has already interrupted our comm lines. All we received in response was a garbled cry for help. It would seem our base camp is under attack. The cosmic storm inside the Paris system turned out to have been concealing a pirate fleet. It was their crew that attacked our base camp. The pirates asked us to relay a message to command. It read, "Dear absolute fools, thank you for joining us at our most elusive retreat. Isn't it amazing just how quickly seemingly intelligent beings abandon all reason whenever they detect the merest whiff of ancient artifact and devious relic? Perhaps you had hoped to find the means to destroy a great enemy, to build fleets as far as the event horizon reaches, or were you just trying to be nice to your own people? How quaint. Please don't feel bad, many others have come before you, and our business model depends that many others will follow in your footsteps. Now, for a modest sum of 2,000 energy credits, we will return something that you have lost. Reject our offer, and who knows what terrible things could happen to your science team and their poorly armed crew that remains trapped on the planet. Maybe a nearby slaver or a very driven assimilator might be interested. We hear nerve stapling is the hot new trend." We had to make a choice: pay the ransom, leave our science team to rot, or push back and attempt to rescue the crew. We chose the latter. The Commonwealth of Man will not be bullied, and these pirates obviously don't know that we have defeated far greater threats than them. And that's how it turned out. These pirates could not back up their cocky speeches with any real martial prowess. We sent a strike team into Faris to recover the science vessel and crew. It did not take long before the tattered remnants of their fleet became part of the galactic ecosystem. We quickly re-established contact with the crew on the surface. They were shaken by the experience, but suffered no harm. While we discovered no insights into an ancient civilization, our experience did instill the need for vigilance. The expedition leader failed to see the incoming danger, and they will not make the same mistake. They have been reassigned to a planetary teaching role for several cycles. Next up we have City of Bones in at number 7. This needs a Gaia or dry planet in order to fire. We discovered the ruins of an ancient city built entirely out of bones of an unknown origin. Parts of this ghastly city were long buried beneath the sands of Corolla, and the ISS Robin has been sent to excavate them. The city appeared to have been built by a primitive alien society millions of years ago on a continental stretch of desert. The lack of other building materials in a waterless society likely contributed to this long-lost society's use of bones in construction, though what matter of creature the bones came from remains unclear. A targeted excavation revealed neither a complete skeleton belonging to the species from whose bones the time-worn city was built, nor any examples of similar fossils from beyond the city. The question of where this lost civilization obtained the bones remains. It took several months. Our researchers began to hypothesize that the bones may have been taken from a symbiotic or livestock species. And indeed, they were correct. It did not take long for our scientists to reveal the origins of the bones. Recent findings proved that the bones did indeed belong to a long extinct species of reptile native to the planet, a species which developed a rare genetic disease causing explosive organ growth and soft tissue ossification. This lost civilization appears to have noted the spread of the disease and then exploited it, selectively breeding the affected reptiles in order to cultivate a steady supply of building materials. Grim indeed. Using these materials, our scientists have been able to devise a stimulant for increased population growth speed. Unfortunately, some populations dislike the idea of being injected with a substance developed by exhuming the diseased bones of long-dead, diseased aliens. Moving on to number 6, the Mask of Transformation. This event will only fire when a colony turns exactly 2 years old, and only on tropical, continental or Gaia worlds. Thus its rarity will fluctuate depending on the demographic of the specific empire. Nevertheless, this makes it rare enough to be on this list, and I'll detail the event for you now. Chief Science Officer's Log, April 5th, 2308, 1300 hours. My team and I were undertaking routine surveillance and exploration of the Lagoon Nebula when we entered the Hallex system. 6 planets orbited a G-class star. Nothing particularly noteworthy. However, the third planet, Halex 3, a tropical world, did show some promise. As is common with tropical planets, it was teeming with various pre-sapients, all differing in shape, size, and temperament. One that the crew have nicknamed a flurbo has proven particularly popular. Much of the planet's surface is covered with dense jungle. Massive 1,000-year-old trees erupt from the canopy, their leafy crowns towering over the landscape. This is where our botanist picked up on something quite remarkable. At first glance, the distribution of these giant trees appeared random. However, further analysis indicated that the trees are in fact arranged with incredible mathematical precision. Not unlike some of the ancient Earth buildings that were aligned with the stars and magnetic North Pole, it would seem likely that these trees were planted by some long-vanished civilization. What's more, the team believes that the distribution pattern may comprise a set of coordinates, one that points to an unexplored location deep within the planet's jungle. I've ordered a full aerial survey of the jungle in the hope that we find ancient ruins, and intend to mount an expedition towards the coordinates. April 6th, 2308, 1100 hours. Given the impenetrable canopy on Halex 3, a full 3 aerial surveys have proven useless, in both determining a conventional route through the jungle and discovering any signs of civilization. Below the canopy, the jungle floor teems with life. Limbless predators droop and track us. We face swarms of insects, but the flurbo remains a constant source of joy and companionship. The forest floor is loamy, and pools of fetid water has caused significant delay in our expedition. Furthermore, we are starting to encounter problems with our equipment. As it currently stands, there is no obvious cause. Our techs think either the density of the foliage or an as of yet unfound electrical interference is the likely culprit. I suspect it will be several days of hard slog before we're able to forge a path through these trees to the destination marked by the coordinates, though progress is likely to be slow. The science team has continued to be hard at work during the expedition. My botanist has now completed a soil analysis, and it revealed that Halex 3 has undergone a startling climatological transformation within its last 100 cycles of its local star. Far from the jungle world that exists today, the planet was once rocky and barren. Myself and the team are starting to believe that the great trees themselves are responsible for this transformation. A wide beam imaging scan conducted by the Carlisle in orbit has detected the presence of psionic energy within the tree's sap. This psionic energy appears to have been pulled from the planet's groundwater by the tree's vast root systems. This energy is eventually diffused through the planet's atmosphere in a process akin to photosynthesis. We assume that this is highly likely to be the cause of the team's malfunctioning equipment. Interestingly, the presence of the planet's moon appears to accelerate this ionic diffusion. On clear nights, the air comes alive, almost as if it has its own vibration. The phenomenon continues to grow in intensity as the team and I near our destination. This is unlike anything we have seen before, and unlike anything I have read in documentation across the Commonwealth. April 9th, 2308, 1600 hours. At last we are reaching the coordinates detailed by the great trees. We've discovered a great winding river hidden to our senses by the thick canopy. It appears to be coming from a great circular cave entrance, and perhaps is the source of an underground spring. In another remarkable turn of events, a precarious stairway cut into the rocks leading down into the depths of the mountain has also been discovered. It's clearly thousands of years old, and must precede the planting of the trees by several hundred or several thousands of years. We will begin our climb down into the depths of this cave system. April 10th, 2308, 0200 hours. The climb was perilous, but we've made it down to the bottom of the staircase. We find ourselves in a vast cavernous network, and something or someone obviously used to live down here. The walls and ceilings are covered in ideographs, graphic symbols that represent an idea or concept, the most prominent of which depicts a rather round, humanoid face. Our AI translation algorithms have succeeded in decoding much of the symbology, and according to the AI, this image likely represents the planet's moon. Members of the team are starting to note that within this cave network, the presence of psionic energy has become far more intense. It is taking a great deal of concentration to not become distracted, and I feel I have a great urge to return to the surface, to do what I can only describe as take a breath. Others in my team have described this energy as a fog that one must navigate. I do wonder how I would cope without my genetic enhancements. However, we have further issues of the less spiritual. The path into the next cave is blocked, and we think it was intentional. We wonder, were they keeping something in, or preventing others from getting at whatever is inside? We intend to find out for ourselves. Specialist robotic equipment is being brought down to assist in clearing the path. April 13th, 2308, 1100 hours. I am most pleased to report the machines were successful in removing the rubble blocking our passage, and the team ventures on. After traversing similar caves to the one that we found ourselves in, with the backdrop of the psionic fog continuing to increase, we have successfully made it to the lowest part of the cave network, and we find ourselves within a hemispherical chamber with the river running through it. The river has parted round a small island, and at the centre of this island there was a wonderful crystal bed, with crystals far larger than anything I had ever seen. The crystals jutting out of the ground were easily 3 meters in length and half a meter thick. They must have formed over several millennia to have reached this size. They pulse with psionic energy, and it was immediately apparent to us that this was the source of the psionic power that we had sensed ever since landing on the planet. The team and I approached the crystal bed with caution and trepidation, not necessarily through choice. The psionic fog was as thick as it had ever been. Upon approach, there were obvious signs of religious worship. Whatever once lived here clearly held these crystals in a high regard, and everything surrounding them wept with psionic energy. Perhaps whoever lived here did as well. But this is where our mission became really intriguing. A multiphasic scan revealed a roundish object embedded in the largest crystal's base. It appeared that the crystal had formed around an object. My hopes are high that once removed, this artifact will finally shed some light on the true nature of this mysterious place, whatever that may be. A precise laser cutter is being brought down from the surface to assist in the evacuation of this object. My anticipation continues to build. April 15th, 2308, 0900 hours. This morning, at 0800 ship time, I'm pleased to report that the excavation of the object was successful. The object appears to be what can only be described as a mask, and most bizarrely, and if not for the corroborating report from my team, I'd deny it, but I swear, it changed shape to match that of a human face when we removed it from the crystal lattice. It does seem awfully coincidental that the mask would appear to perfectly fit our faces, despite a human apparently never having set foot on this planet before. A stone tablet lay under the mask. It was covered in graphs, graphics, and what we assume to be scripture relating to the mask and its apparent power. Some of it has already been translated, and if correct, the mask is called the Mask of Transformation. It's obviously the source of psionic energy emanating across the planet. The tablet's graphics show representation of the mask controlling the planet's moon and tides, and is likely the originator of how this once barren and rocky planet became a lush jungle in such a short space of time. Whoever fostered growth of the crystal pillar and planted the elaborate map of trees in the forest clearly intended to honour and protect the artifact. My team theorised that if we were to understand this mask, we may be able to use it to terraform entire worlds. I've ordered the mask be packed up aboard the Carlisle. We shall return to Alpha Centauri and the Science Nexus in order to research it further. April 17th, 2308, 2300 hours. Day has been filled with an internal struggle, one that has left my mind and emotions in a state of turmoil. The source of conflict is this mask, now locked in a stasis field in Science Lab 2. Its psionic fog has followed onto our vessel, and the stasis field has done little to dull its effects. I wish us a speedy voyage home. No space storms are expected. I wish to get this thing off my ship as soon as possible. It exudes an inexplicable aura, a magnetic pull that tugs at the depth of my being, beckoning me to put it on, and unlock its hidden secrets. I know deep down that I should resist its call, but the consequences of succumbing to its allure could be dire. It's obviously not of the physical world. We have been warned about the Shroud and the entities that live there. I must sleep, though sleep eludes me. April 18th, 2308, 0500 hours. I awoke early this morning. Sleep eventually found me, but it did not provide the rest I sorely needed. Ever since the mask came into my possession, its presence has haunted my thoughts. I feel as if it possesses a consciousness of its own, whispering to me in hushed tones, enticing me with promises of power, knowledge, and experience beyond my wildest imagination. Its siren song is intoxicating, filling my mind with visions of untold wonders and untapped potential. Although I am drawn to its mystique, I remain aware of the dangers that lie within. I wonder if others in the crew are also experiencing this internal conflict. April 18th, 2308, 1300 hours. I made the mistake of visiting Science Lab 2. I took the mask in my hands. I felt its weight, tracing the intricate patterns etched upon its surface with my fingers. It was both mesmerizing and unnerving, its presence casting an eerie shadow over my surroundings. Each time I consider putting it on, a knot forms in my stomach, a deep-seated intuition warning me of the perils that await on the other side. As the hours pass, the temptation grows stronger, like a persistent itch that demands to be scratched. Its allure is no longer just a distant whisper, but a persistent chant that reverberates through my thoughts. It calls to me, promises answers to questions I've long pondered, urging me to embrace the mysteries it holds. I must find the strength to resist. I know that yielding to this temptation would be akin to stepping into the abyss, surrendering myself to an unknown fate. I must remember the stories of those who have fallen prey to such artifacts, losing themselves in the process. Their cautionary tales serve as a stark reminder of the potential consequences that await those who dare to tread this path. Tomorrow is a new day, and I hope this feeling fades. We still have several months of travel until we reach our destination. If I cannot shake this feeling, I may have to order an experimental jump. I cannot be the only one aboard affected. I worry for my ship and my crew. April 21st, 2308, 0900 hours. I was woken early this morning by frantic comms from the medical bay. One of the lab techs, a Peter Green, disabled the stasis field and donned the mask. He now cannot remove it, nor have we been able to take it off for him. The mask has sealed itself around the back of his head. He seems for the most part to be calm in demeanour. He is however telling us that he can see things, tendrils of time and space, and can apparently connect them together, whatever that means. I've ordered he be locked in the brig and put under constant guard. Fortunately, the psionic fog has somewhat lifted. Perhaps it is now contained within Peter. I do not know, but I am thankful for it. The only thing remaining on my mind is whether to order a jump. The technology is still experimental, but anything that will get us back to Commonwealth space would be most welcoming. I shall hold off for the moment. Perhaps our luck will turn, and Peter will be okay. April 24th, 2308, 0100 hours. Several days have passed since my last entry. All was well. Peter and the mask were contained. The crew appeared to be functioning more effectively as the psionic fog lifting was a godsend. Peter, however, was losing more and more of himself. Whatever entity occupied the mask was taking him, and there was nothing we could do to prevent it. Late last night, he broke the energy barrier containing him in his cell. He killed the guards assigning to watch him and started a fire in engineering, wrecking the plasma drive core and damaging the zero-point reactor. He is still aboard the ship. We do not know where, and we now drift in space without main power online. We have several days of reserve power remaining, and I have security teams hunting him. The order for lethal force to be used has been given. I do not believe that Peter is in control of his body. Something has taken him, but I do not know what. April 28th, 2308, 1600 hours. Final entry. Emergency power will run out in approximately 47 minutes. This will be my last log entry. I am alone now. Peter is still aboard the ship. I do not know where. I have been unable to raise the security teams. The bridge crew are nowhere to be found. This mask has torn my ship apart. I plead with whoever finds these log entries, destroy this mask. Eject it into a star. Do not allow it to take your crew, as I did mine. This is my final wish. Dr. Stanley Ipkiss signing off. Long live humanity, and glory to the Commonwealth of Man. On to number 5, the Chronicles of Dendrus. This event is both rare and recent, which may be why you've not heard of it before. It requires a very specific galaxy to spawn. A black hole is required, which is already a fairly rare stellar phenomenon, but a planetary body is also needed within that black hole system, making it incredibly rare indeed. I shall detail the event for you now. Scans of MY482, a lonely tomb world, revealed the presence of a spaceborne shipwreck. The vessel appeared to have endured an uncontrolled landing here many years ago. Its massive scale suggests immense resource was once committed to its construction. An archaeological expedition will help us ascertain how it ended up here. We quickly set about external analysis of this wrecked ship, which suggested it is a high-capacity transporter. Its systems are inactive and unresponsive, with no life signs detectable within. Sedimentary analysis indicates that it has been here for approximately a century, which is remarkably recent in the galactic timescale. We made efforts to explore the interior of the vessel, and inside the ship we found sophisticated chambers for hydroponic plant growth, extensive reserves of seeds and soils, and cargo bays full of untouched tools and building materials. Many of the data terminals contain plans for a new colony, designated as New Brutala, on the lower decks, occupying thousands of cryo-sleep pods with the dead bodies of the ship's former inhabitants. They are the withered forms of phototropic organisms, and we suggest that they perished at some point during the prolonged stasis sleep. Exploration of the vessel continued, and we soon discovered an inner sanctum decorated with ornate illustrations of life on a planet called Brutala. Some of these showed a lush world with thriving flora, while others detailed environmental decay and mass death. The largest image depicts this vessel departing a lifeless and desolate wasteland. A central data terminal contained a short video with recordings from the ship's crew. After extensive language mapping, we produced the following translations. Leaving hurts, but putting roots on New Brutala will heal us. Trust the Chronicles. New Brutala will be our salvation. It would appear that not unlike the Commonwealth of Man, these people left their planet seeking a new home. Although it would appear where we found our unity, they did not find this New Brutala. We will continue searching for the command deck of this enormous vessel. After gaining access to the ship's command deck, we managed to extract and translate its final flight log. It is marked as the emergency log, and it reads, I fear our trust in the Chronicles was misplaced. We have arrived, but New Brutala, the paradise planet, is not here. Nothing here can support Dendrichian life. All passengers' stasis sleeps have been extended. We continue our search. We carried out further data recovery in the hope to collect these Chronicles from the deck's science terminals, and we'd revealed a trove of unusual mathematical proofs. These equations employ a strange form of mathematics and hypothesized the location of a uniquely habitable planet, which they dubbed the New Brutala. By studying these Chronicles, we believe that we can learn more about this planet sought by the Dendricians. These curious theorems suggest that a specific star system contains one additional and previously unmapped hyperlane that leads to the system with this planet in it. After extensive quantum scanning of the area, we finally located the breach point for this missing hyperlane. It was obscured and heavily degraded due to extreme proximity to the system's black hole, but by restoring it, we believe we will be the first to discover what lies beyond. By channeling energy into the black hole, we managed to realign its gravitational fields to free the previously degraded hyperlane entrance. Initial findings confirm the existence of a single planet at the other end of the hyperlane, which aligns with the characteristics of New Brutala as described in the Chronicles. This is, I hope, a new and beautiful world to explore. Upon surveying it, this world appears to possess a uniquely rich and a diverse botanic ecosystem, with initial surveys detecting millions of native species. The world is indeed fascinating and particularly suited to supporting plant-based lifeforms like the Dendrusians. I'm told that it will be possible to re-establish this plantoid species here by transplanting genetic samples recovered from their ark ship to this planet's unusually nutritious soils. And I'm very pleased to report this is the decisions we made. Whether fate or by design, this planet, it would seem, was made for these people. My lords, several outcomes are available here. If you choose to restore the Dendrusian people and home them on this world, they will of course be grateful, and over time they will request to be your vassal. But you can also, if you wish, choose to play as them, in the same way that you can choose to play as a robotic uprising or the demonic invasion. An interesting end and an interesting outcome indeed. Now we are getting rarer and rarer, my lords, moving on to Whispers in the Stone. This comes in at number 4. Now Whispers in the Stone is an odd one indeed, as technically it spawns in every single galaxy. However, its firing is not limited to the player. Any empire can spawn it after researching specific mining technologies. Thus its odds are severely hampered by the number of empires in any galaxy, and how fast you are at researching the mineral isolation technology, a tier 4 mining tech. Of course, even if you are the first to reach that technology, you still have to get the lucky roll in order to access this wonderful dig site, which I shall detail for you now. An initial scan of the site suggested a many-leveled subterranean city carved from a natural cave system. Multiple dense mineral veins ran the length of the site, including gold, iron, and likely diamond deposits. The scan suggested a spiderweb-like structure with but one entrance, a long, winding cavernous vein poking out to the surface. The science team advanced through this long winding cave and eventually reached a set of marvellously ornamentally designed gates, preventing any way further forward. Whoever built these gates surely had a rich culture and were expert engineers, for not only were they beautiful, but they also appeared to be an environmental seal. They are seamless, and no air flows from one side to the other. Travelling deeper into the cave system would require dismantling or piercing these great gates. Although Took and Brandybuck jokingly tried, reciting the word friend did not allow them entry. The team set about drilling into the gates in order to begin dismantling them. Explosive charges were not used, as scans appeared to show the environment beyond the gates being made up of mostly methane gas, highly explosive when ignited. The rocks were quite porous and seemed to be releasing the gas into the cave system. The team carefully dismantled the massive gates which blocked further exploration of the mountain. As the gates came down, a marvellous rush of gases came pouring out of the mountain. Methane, being lighter than oxygen, gushed out of the now breached subterranean city, and oxygen poured in. The city could now be explored safely, although the doctors point out how anything could have lived down here, let alone built a city in this deadly environment, is beyond them. In any case, work dismantling the gates was completed without disturbing the integrity of the dig site, and it appeared that the scans of the tunnels were indeed correct. This ant-like tunnel system converges kilometres below the surface in an abandoned city, which the doctors report dates back many thousands of years. As the doctors and their team push into the city, they report it to be designed in a similar way to the great gates that block their entrance. Marvellously well-designed great sculptures and beautiful ornate buildings. Whoever lived here was indeed a master of stonecraft. Great swathes of precious metals had been used as decorations, reflecting the light of the team's torches. It was truly a wonderful sight to behold. The city, unsurprisingly, was deserted. Our scans had detected no signs of life. However, bizarrely, the city is populated instead by gruesomely grimacing crystal statues, posed in lifelike situations as if frozen in time. There are thousands of statues all over the city, in places quite odd for ornamentation. For example, there are statues operating mines, with pickaxes still in hand, statues fallen over in agony, statues perhaps of a couple, or perhaps a family, locked in an embrace, and others appear to be running, although from what we cannot tell. More disturbingly, these statues almost look like people. Although clearly extremely alien, one can see the resemblance in the behaviour. The doctors report it seems unthinkable that the masterful stonecutters who built this city, and were clearly capable of such beauty and grace, would also make something so crude. Yet these statues clearly held great importance and significance to their society. Not only are they everywhere in it, they also feature prominently in carvings and tablets all over the city. Translations of the stone tablets reveal that the city and its culture indeed does revolve around the enigmatic statues, which are reportedly called the Kalanka. Never are the stonecutters themselves mentioned. The tablets detail a mysterious creation tale. Not unlike myths told on ancient Earth, they tell of a race of godlike creatures who came down from the heavens and breathed life into the mountain. These creatures birthed the Kalanka from fire and stone deep within the world's molten core. Brandybuck and Took wonder if the stonecutters imagined themselves as gods over their statues' creations. Or perhaps the statues were created in the stonecutters' image. One of the statues was taken aboard the Doctor's science vessel, the Shire, in order to conduct a detailed material scan. What the scan revealed was quite disturbing. Apparently these statues were once alive. Their genetic composition resembles no other sample we have ever encountered. They appear to be a silicon-based life form, or lithoid, also known as rock people, that has somehow reverted back into a crystal state. The Doctors revisit the creation myth told in the stone tablets. Perhaps the stonecutters really did find a way to create life from fire and stone. It appears, my lords, we may have accidentally committed genocide. Details to follow. After further material scanning and experimentation on the liberated statue, the Doctors believe the statues, i.e. the Kalanka, are also the stonecutters, the ones who built the city. They were indeed once alive and thriving until quite recently. Closer study of their remains has shown that they were crystallized when their silicon-based molecules bonded with oxygen, leading to the formation of quartz. As we know, the Kalanka habitat is at a depth where oxygen does not naturally occur. They therefore developed as an anaerobic life form, i.e. not requiring oxygen to live, instead using the great quantities of methane available to them for respiration. It appears when our science team opened and broke through the Kalanka protective gates and delved into their tunnel system, we exposed them to air and oxygen, leading to an excruciating and drawn-out death as they became exposed. This explains why we found so many statues in odd positions throughout the city. Further surveys have confirmed the Doctor's suspicions. Until the first science team pierced the tunnel system, the Kalanka civilization were indeed alive and thriving. We can only speculate, but the Doctors suggest another race did indeed come here many thousands of years ago, and birthed the civilization just as the tablets suggest. As they left, they built the airlock that kept the Kalanka sealed in place, keeping them safe from the oxygen atmosphere on the surface of the planet, and thus this is how the Kalanka lived until we came along. Doctors Brandybuck and Took do however report it is not all bad news. The discoveries here have led to the invention of a technique where crystals are manufactured synthetically by oxidation of artificially grown silicon-based cell cultures. A large amount of rare crystals have been extracted, and translucent plants have been set up to keep them coming. Now we are getting incredibly rare indeed, my lords. Moving on to number 3, Ancient Capital Site. Now in theory, Ancient Capital Site is not potentially fitting of third spot on this list, since its requirements to spawn are simply that you have to survey a habitable world, and these are of course somewhat limited, but they're certainly not rare. I've put it at number 3 because it has a hidden interaction with the legendary paragon Admiral Scrand Sharpbeak, who is, although arguably the second or third most common legendary paragon, still very elusive himself. If you are lucky to find the Admiral and this dig site, you'll get a special dialogue from the Admiral which will delve more into his backstory, thus making the odds that you've seen this dialogue incredibly rare indeed. I'll detail the event for you now. For those who don't know, Scrand Sharpbeak is one of the legendary paragons who exist in our universe. We found him and freed him from a malfunctioning gateway. How he got there was a mystery, until now. Dr. Udabon reports on our discovery. We've discovered the ruins of an ancient capital city on Miranda 3. Given its size and scale, this was likely the capital or central administration hub of a major spacefaring civilization. A full excavation will be necessary to properly determine its origin. Grand sanctums and ruined temples dot the landscape of the capital world. A deeper exploration has revealed that this civilization was destroyed here more than 500,000 years ago. This data is based on the discovery of several remarkably well-preserved murals. The inhabitants appeared to have been avian in biology, and a rough translation of their language indicates that they called themselves the Krasura. Further excavation has resulted in a startling discovery. We found a chamber so massive it could house one of the planet's smaller mountains. Despite the awesome scale, this grand hall served no apparent function, with only a single means of entrance and egress. Roughly spherical, the chamber walls show strong evidence of dimensional warping. It's reasonable to conclude that the chamber was built around a wormhole or some other subspace portal. A mural at the edge just outside the hall indicates that the planet was once called Scaravid. We've been working on site for several months now, and we've established that the Kazura were not native to our dimension. It appears that they arrived through a portal of some kind. They found themselves adrift in a strange alien galaxy. Much later, the Grand Hall was built around their arrival site. The few remaining records indicate that they viewed themselves as the arbiters of great and mystical powers. The supreme leader, known as the Yakura, was believed to be a single individual reincarnating into a new body with each generation. Beneath the Grand Hall, we unearthed the remains of several such rulers. Interestingly, the earliest possessed a genetic structure that was quite different from those that followed it. It would seem that the journey to this universe impacted the Kazura's very DNA, which resulted in the emergence of a double set of eyes. The Kazura started out as refugees in our universe. Nevertheless, the records discovered near the Grand Hall show that they quickly established themselves into a powerful interstellar empire. For many generations, it appeared that they enjoyed a golden age, and their people prospered, and the ability and supremacy of the Kazura went unquestioned. Then a menace appeared. A foe unlike any they had encountered before, this nameless enemy seemed obsessed with their destruction. The Kazura's greatest sages, the greatest psionics they had, stood powerless before this indomitable threat. Their mighty magic was rendered useless. We have uncovered a cache of records that offers clues as to the fate of this empire. Commanding their navy's flagship was a legendary admiral, a great hero of his people. Before the alien menace could achieve a final victory, he and his crew were sent on a last, daring mission in a bid to outflank the enemy. They entered an untested gateway. The ship and its crew were never heard from again. What happened to them remains a mystery, until now. Of course, my lords, we know that this ship was indeed still out there, and we know what happened to Scrand. Moving on to number 2, the Vagrosian ruins. I've been somewhat sneaky with this one, as despite being a dig site, this is rare because it's linked to another legendary paragon, Cades. Empires can find Cades as an infant in the Dugar system. However, this system only spawns in 25% of all galaxies, and the player must be the first empire to enter it in order to begin the event chain. The Vagrosian ruins are a dig site that appear near the end of Cades' story, so not only does the system have to spawn, you have to be the first to find it, you have to not be a Gestalt, and you have to keep Cades alive before you even have an opportunity to find the ruins. If however you do make it to the ruins, the following will occur. Please bear in mind, Cades' story has significant depth, so I'm starting at the point where he finds the ruins. If you do want to hear the full report on Cades, you can find it by searching for the legendary Paragon lore. In any case, here is the event. The planet that the drones were protecting was tidally locked. One side, facing the cold darkness of space, the other was bathed in perpetual light. On the warm light-filled half of this world, we would uncover the ruins of what may be a Vagrosian city. Cades is hopeful to find the details of his past and his people buried here. It appears that the planet must have played a vital role in Vagrosian society. Early into the excavations, it became clear that much of the infrastructure was centered around administrative work. The city potentially served as a hub for communications across a large and wide empire or federation. There was no shortage of places for those in leadership to gather, and several public squares of truly massive proportions have already been uncovered. Thanks to the fortunate discovery of an underground vault, Cades had not slept for days. He was convinced that this place held the key to his existence. Deep within the vault, he discovered row upon row of cryostasis pods. All of them lay empty. Circuits integrated in the floor led to a larger structure, a throne-like pedestal in the very centre of the vault. Against the protests of our science teams, Cades made the decision to sit upon the throne. No sooner than he had sat down, he lost consciousness. Even as his expression slackened, his body was racked by convulsions. No amount of effort from the science team was able to free him from the throne. Hours passed, and finally, when it seemed like his young body could bear no more, he awoke. It appeared that he had been experiencing more visions, and he describes them for us now. Cades stood within a vast public square, packed inside with thousands if not hundreds of thousands of people. Their faces turned to the sky. They watched a massive ship descend from the upper atmosphere. At once, a single voice boomed out. "Attend," it said. "For the time of judgment is at hand. The keys will be taken. Here you shall remain until the end of all things." The cries of his people were deafening in the midst of the vision. He understood that his world had been abandoned. Their masters and overlords, an off-world species of unimaginable power, found his people lacking. The keys and stable wormholes that they had produced was all that connected his world to the wider galaxy. Cut off from galactic trade, the foundation of his people's prosperity was suddenly and irretrievably lost. As a result, his people were given a month to yield all keys and related materials. In truth, it was more of an insult than a mercy, as this time was not nearly sufficient enough to save themselves. As an administrative world, the planet did not have the means to sustain its vast population. The best they could hope was to ration what they had, delaying the time of their starvation. Their off-world masters were well aware of this. In their despair, the planet's leaders hatched a plan. Recent forays into advanced medical care, preservation and genomics had afforded them an unlikely opportunity. And as such, the Vagrosian survival plan was set into motion. The pod containing their would-be scion, Cades, was launched into space, and with it a fragment of the last key broken into 4 pieces and scattered across the galaxy to avoid detection. Cades was born without parents, the product of genetic engineering. Encoded within his very DNA lay the memories of his people. Upon his maturity, contact with the key would allow him to access these materials in the form of visions. Alongside this plan, the planet's leaders ordered the construction of thousands upon thousands of cryostasis pods and a giant underground space to house them. They hoped that their brightest could sleep, awaiting Cades' return, and so they had slept until the cryostasis machines could no longer support their bodies. Their minds had been reduced to mere data, and they waited for Cades inside the throne. So as not to squander their sacrifice, Cades once more sat upon the throne. This time it proved a shorter and far less dramatic affair. The memories of his people entered him with the tranquility of a flowing stream. With his ancestors' knowledge and memories in hand, excavation was shortly concluded. His next course of action is to attempt to process all of the obtained data, and it took several weeks before Cades would once again take to the machine throne. It would seem that recent events had taken their toll on Cades. Despite this, he was content. "I have my answers," he said. "They may be bittersweet, but I'm glad to know them." We told Cades he had done his ancestors proud, and went on to ask him what he thought we should do with the key. Despite being fully restored and functional, it seems regrettable that its full power had now been lost. We were unable to use it without a receiving device. It seems regrettable that its full power had been lost, but nevertheless, we hoped our physicists continued to gain insights from its study. And finally, my lords, number 1. The Grand Herald. Technically speaking, the Grand Herald probably shouldn't be a number 1, as it can fire on any tomb, desert, arid, or savanna world. Despite that, my lords, it is undoubtedly the most infamous of Digsites, with players reaching thousands of hours and never having experienced the joy of acquiring a Titan in the year 2220. For those who've not experienced it, here is the tale of the Grand Herald. Even without instruments, one can readily see the remains of vast urbanization down on the planet Jomel 1. Clearly a highly advanced civilization once dwelled here, but today there are no life signs nor electromagnetic signals consistent with a technologically advanced society. The planet appears to be dead, but nevertheless it is prudent to go down and investigate more thoroughly. Perhaps we shall find something worthy of excitement within this ruined world. Devastated but fairly advanced architecture hints at a technologically adept humanoid species on the verge of spacefaring capability. Translated documentation and an extensive network of monumental spiritualistic architecture indicates a deeply seated religion or spirituality that consumed, at least outwardly, the entire civilization who once occupied this world. The phrase the Grand Herald is mentioned repeatedly, and appears to be a figure or concept of divine or unquestioned reverence to this society. We believe at this point it to be their deity of sorts. Sifting through the abundance of documentation that we found in the ruins across the planet, it appears that the species loved their written word. One recurring concept stands out. It is referred to as the Testament of Omen. The Testament of Omen appears to be a book of religious importance. It holds within it a number of key messages, but the general theme being some portent of impending doom that triggered paranoia and dread across the general population. Due to the metaphorical nature of the scriptural language, it's difficult to ascertain the true nature of this menace, but the effect on the psyche of this indigenous species is indisputable. En masse, they appear to have looked to the heavens for divine intervention. If we are correct in our speculation, it appears that they were answered, but not by a benevolent being from the heavens, by something else, much more menacing. It is pure speculation at this point, but we believe that this civilization was consumed entirely by either the entity that we have designated the Worm, or perhaps more unlikely, an entity from the Shroud. If it was a Shroud entity this civilization made a pact with, we think the Eater of Worlds is the likely culprit, given what happened next. Whoever the specific entity was that this race made a pact with, the entire population on the planet vanished within the next century. Architectural analysis has isolated the buildings that were assembled just before the civilization vanished. The pattern is the same across the entire planet. Haphazard utilitarian constructs intended for heavy industrial work. Unlike the older dwellings, these buildings are unadorned and noticeably pragmatic in their design. Perhaps a culture of iconoclasm took hold. Over the entrance to each of these buildings is the Creed of Servitude, a prayer of service to the Grand Herald and its holy plan. Our working theory is that this is some kind of response to the doom foretold in the Testament of Omen. This complete and aggressive cultural shift further reinforces our theory of a pact with the Shroud entity or the Worm. The general consensus now is that the Worm is the less likely culprit. Due to previous reports, the Worm had quite specific requirements, i.e. buildings such as the Omega alignment. A few more days have passed, and today the surface expedition made an interesting find. It was an audio recording from one of the major cities, a teeming mass of beings, seemingly the bulk of the city's inhabitants. They were crowding into a public square en masse. It appears that they were chanting, their collective voices rising in a crescendo, like the sound of a rolling thunderstorm. Our translation software has been hard at work and translated the mass chants to read. The ascension is nigh. Carry us, O Grand Herald, into a new beginning. Lead us from a land of tears and dust, and grant us a new home amongst the stars. We follow as one. We follow thee. Rise, rise, rise. It appears this recording was not an isolated event. We are finding more and more evidence that this was global. Every single inhabitant on the planet chanting together in unison. Such an unusual event warranted further research, and that's when a new insight was gained. A document called the Pilgrimage of the Last Days was uncovered, and it seems to be one of the last links in this mysterious chain of events. The document refers to a specific location on the planet where some final reckoning or ritual will occur. An isolated cavern lost in kilometers of unremarkable desert that was neglected in earlier surveys. The document also speaks of something called the Rite of the Lifted Veil, which we are now attempting to interpret. we have come to the conclusion that the Grand Herald is an unconventional religious figure indeed. In fact, it seems to be a special engineering project of enormous proportions. Under the desert, this race constructed an immensely large automated construction yard. Great cavernous doors hid a highly elaborate cradle network, and docked within this shipyard is what we assume to be its first and only product. A colossal warship, easily as large if not larger than one of our own conventional Titan-class warships. Where ritualistic metaphors and archaeological fact intersect is still not entirely clear, but we know this. Whatever threat the Testament of Omen spoke of must have indeed come to pass, as according to automated logs, the entire population disappeared mysteriously, several decades prior to the Grand Herald project being concluded. Nevertheless, the automated construction yard has continued to work, finalizing a ship without passengers. The mostly intact but empty ship has been slumbering here for millennia, without anyone to pilot it. It was suggested that we take it out for a spin. However, this raises several questions, the obvious being, where did the entire population go? If they all perished in battle, we would have expected to have found evidence showing that. But perhaps more pressing, this civilization was not FTL capable prior to the communion with whatever beast answered their plea for help. Subsequently, they became significantly less ritualistic and managed to acquire this Titan-class warship design somehow. We can only speculate, but perhaps the Eater of Worlds grew tired waiting for the civilization to complete the vessel and war on its behalf, and as such, it ate them instead. Amusing for one with a sense of irony, their seeking of help to save them from their prophesied doom was likely what ended up bringing it about. Nevertheless, their curse is our gain. The Grand Herald, as it shall remain named, is on its way to Alpha Centauri, and it will make a fine addition to our fleet.